Let's get to this. Will Stein spoke at Duck Summer Ball.
Duck Summer Ball.
He had a lot of. I thought he had some really good stuff. He just talked about. He was asked in the beginning. You lost Evan Stewart, right? You've got some new guys coming in, hoping to step up at the wide receiver position. Tez Johnson's gone. Before that, you had Franklin. Hell, even Ferguson, throw him in the mix. I know Kenyon Sadiq they're very high on, but Will Stein asked about what the receiver room is going to be like this season, knowing Evan Stewart probably gone for the year.
Anytime you lose anybody in your squad, it's tough. Losing Evan was definitely tough, but next man up mentality. I mean, we've been here before. I've been here before in my career, whether it's as a player, as a coach. People get hurt in this game. It's unfortunate. We wish it wouldn't have happened, but it did. So it's about, guys stepping up, doing their job, learning, growing. That's what this fall camp's all about, trying to feel early on who that guy is going to be. I think we got a good group of kids, inexperienced, but talented. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out of camp to really take that spot.
So that seems like a pretty open-ended way of saying it's a race right now, and we don't know who's winning that race yet. It's still early in camp, so they got a couple weeks here, but talking about the next man up. He also talked about the new offensive line, which is new, but not new, but kind of new. It's a weird thing because they have experience.
There's new faces, but a handful of guys are transfers.
Yeah, so here was Will Stein on his offensive line this season.
We need Pancho to be that guy, and that's something that I felt from him this summer is taking that next step in his leadership. He's an upperclassman now, so his ability to lead, not just by example, but by his vocalness is huge. And then physicality. I mean, I think what we added was very physical people. Isaiah World, Emmanuel Pregnon, Alex Harkey. Like, these guys are big physical players and really have done a nice job so far learning our offense, learning our calls. So, I mean, Coach Terry and the law firm, they do the best job I've ever been around in terms of teaching how to play offensive line and develop those guys. So, so far, so good.
So what do you make of the receiver race? And then also offensive line seems to be, because I've heard you say this before, and I think others have echoed it and Dan Rubenstein will join us coming up. Solid Verbal Podcast. He covers all of college football, does a great job on that pod at 8:15. There is an assumption that offensive line isn't necessarily a worry because of the guys that are returning mixed with the transfer portal guys they got to come in.
I mean, I tend to lean in that camp. They were horrible early in the year last year, and it kind of derailed their first two games. Well, almost derailed their season. But they survived Idaho and Boise State despite it. And it was largely because they just weren't settled on the front five, and they didn't have somebody in the middle of that offensive line that could play, as Dan Lanning likes to say, above the line football, right? He was the weak link, and they struggled around him because of that. Once they moved Pancho to center, everything kind of stabilized, and they were a good unit for the rest of the year, and ended up, ironically, being a finalist for the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in college football, which, saying that 2 weeks into the year last year, would have seemed laughable. So I thought it was a great turnaround. Pancho being back as the anchor of the offensive line is huge. I think it just depends on your opinion of the transfers that they brought in. Like, when you read some NFL scout reports for next April's NFL draft, Isaiah World is a guy that shows up as a potential first-round NFL draft pick, and he's the transfer in from Nevada. He's supposed to be out of this world big, out of this world strong, no pun intended. And if he puts it all together this season, he's a guy that could easily play himself into that spot. And so offensive line for me, because of those and the other guys that you have returning, which there's a number of guys who have been playing big-time snaps for them the last 2-3 years, or at least 2 years, who are going to be back as well. I think there's good depth there. I think there's good balance there. And now we got to see if they can overcome injuries as they had to do early in the year last year. Matthew Bedford's a name we mentioned a million times last year. Didn't play a single snap all season.
Every week. He's
every
coming
week.
back.
Is Bedford back? Is Bedford back? Is Bedford back? Guess
Yeah.
who's back this year? Well, at least as of now, knock on wood, and planning on playing this year.
Right.
And I don't even know if he's going to start. He might not even be a starting guard for you, which is showing you, I think, how far that unit has come. So that's not a huge question mark. I think the wide receiver room is almost a perfect encapsulation on how do you feel about the team as a whole? Because when you look at that room, you know what it's littered with? Blue chip recruits. Up and down, like you pick. And some of them might pan out, some of them might not pan out. There is an incredible amount of talent in that room, but as Will Stein talked about many times at the press conference, it's inexperienced, and that's kind of the story of this football team. There's talent on the defensive line. There's talent in the quarterback room. There's talent in the secondary. There's talent at the wide receiver group. but a lot of it is inexperienced talent. A lot of those guys are blue chip recruits. Can 2 or 3 of them pop? That'll be one of the biggest questions for them this season of who ends up being your number 1 wide receiver. Can DeCorian Moore be the true number 1 high school recruit like he was last year and be an immediate impact guy? And if it is a weakness, is Kenyon Sadiq or your running game and offensive line good enough to balance things out? Because that was one of the takeaways from Stein talking that I picked up on was them maybe being a little bit different as an offense this year without having Tez and Evan Stewart and all the weapons that they have on the outside of we're going to pound the rock, be a little more physical. Maybe we look different this year.
So if Dane Brugler's preseason, look ahead to the NFL draft, he's doing all these positional rankings based on the intel he's getting, and I think Dane is one of the best at this. Poncho is 7th of top 7 draft eligible underclassmen. He's also got in his senior class.
I'll be curious about Poncho in the NFL because I think he's a stud. Has had ups and downs, interestingly, early in his career.
Yeah.
A little bit undersized, I feel like, as a center, although my size read on centers can be a little misleading.
Yeah, so when you look at the 3 through 7, it's 6'4", 330, 6'4", 300, 6'6", 330, 6'2", 330, and then Poncho is 6'2", 325. So he's weight-wise, he's okay. His height is the one that's going to be the question.
Right.
You mentioned Pregnon. He is number 5. Emmanuel Pregnon is number 5.
He's the USC transfer.
He's the USC transfer, so he's number 5 on this same thing, and his measurements are pretty impressive. So they definitely have guys on that line that you look at and you might have questions, but ultimately they're dudes that are obviously being checked out for the NFL, which that's all Oregon's been producing lately as NFL prospects.
That room's different because those guys have at least played. Like wide receiver group, there's not a lot of experience.
Well, even
the offensive line's got experience just at other schools.
Well, yeah, but like to me, I could be overstepping here or wrong in some ways. I also view the offensive line transfer thing as like, who is it? Isaiah World's the kid from Nevada, right?
Yeah.
It's weird to say, I have no concerns about that kid. I just feel like when you're doing the portal stuff, and Dan Lanning and Oregon seemingly do this pretty well of calculating who will fit where, how they'll fit. I think you're not bringing him in unless he's ready as a plug play and not we'll hope to develop him some more. Dude, he got enough experience at Nevada. Clearly one of those like late bloomers, didn't get a lot of looks out of high school guys, but popped on
6'8", 320, and you're like, all right, we'll take that.
Yes. Oregon State had that last year too, of just like bringing in some transfer guys on the line. And I'm like, I'm not really concerned about it as much. Other positions, like quarterback, we got Dante Moore audio from Will Stein we'll get to coming up next. But the offensive line thing, as weird as it is to say, and maybe there's some facts that go against it, I don't have huge concerns when you tell me a guy's coming in after – how many years was World at Nevada?
Oh, 2 or 3.
2 or
I
3?
Say,
I mean, that's a lot of
experience. He's a redshirt senior, so he's a guy who's played a lot of college football.
It's a lot of experience, dude. Yeah. Whether you played in Nevada or somewhere better, it doesn't matter to me. You have a world of experience, and you got that size. I don't really worry about the transfer portal guys on the offensive lines.
Yeah, and I think it's almost a theme of where they're going to have to go in the next month, and it's a focal point for them, and that is they need that group to get out of the gate strong first off.
Just to feel good about
and then to be
right?
good, because I do think that like the question marks elsewhere on the roster are fair and valid. I'm not quite as concerned as some because, again, there's an incredible amount of talent everywhere on the roster.
Right.
But they don't have the ability with a veteran quarterback and an elite wide receiver room to maybe overcome some of the weaknesses that they showed on the offensive line early in the year. And Stein harped on that not yesterday, but Friday or whenever he talked about, like, we can't take 3 or 4 weeks to get going as an offense again this year. That's what they did last year. He wants to be running right out of the gate. And I think in order to do that, they need that group to play at a high level. And they seem to be pretty confident that will happen.